What's up, boys and girls? I am doing this on the fly, no preparation, and I'm filming this video, first of all, for myself, so I can look back at this a few years down the line and see what my mindset and thinking was. So, I wanted to hop on here and kind of talk about the recap of 2023, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what I learned, because I learned a lot. I learned so much in terms of business and life, and I feel much more mature when I look back right now. So here's the story. I used to be a huge fan of setting goals, and like any goal you would think about, like followers, views, money. I mean, money is achievable, right? But followers, use money, whatever you can think of, cars, watches, like anything. I love setting goals. I still do. The problem with it is it kind of became too mainstream to the point where like everyone's like, oh, my goal this year is to reach 100,000 followers on, Twitter or X, right? When in reality, you don't want 100,000 followers on X. You want an audience which is super engaged with whatever you post and they buy your shit. Like that's what you want, right? So I hate now, all of these creators uploading videos like, oh, that's how you set goals for 2024. And, like make sure to set your goals right. And then they show like, oh, my goal is to gain 1 million followers on Instagram. Like that's really not in your saying. Like if Instagram algorithm decides that you won't reach that, you can do anything you want. You can use every single hack under the sun. You're not reaching that, right? So what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to demotivate you people, but I'm saying try to set goals which you can actually control, because you can control what another algorithm will say and do. Like you can't predict a global crisis or pandemic or whatever. Like it can stop you, right? Totally, it's just how you deal with it. So that's how it started. I started looking at it, and like obviously it's been going viral on like Twitter and Instagram on how to set goals for the next year for the past like 2 weeks, and I've been hit with the wave of content, right? And I mean, I'm producing the same kind of content. I can't blame anyone. But the reality is, so many people are doing goals wrong. So that's how it started. I've been seeing it like online, and like every time I see it, it kind of pisses me off. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I saw a tweet, just like a random guy with like 100 followers, and he was like, guys, like any advice on setting goals for 2024? And someone in the comments left like a blog post of Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss is the guy who wrote the 4 Hour Work Week. He's like a super popular angel investor, very, very popular and successful entrepreneur, has a great podcast. And, he's had his blog for like 15 years or something crazy like that. Don't quote me on it. But the blog post was like, Tim Ferriss himself said like, oh, I haven't set goals for like 10 years. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like one of the most successful guys I know on the internet hasn't set any goals for like 10 years. And year over year, he becomes more and more successful, not only as a businessman, but as a human being. So I'm like, something's off here. But what he did say he does every year is past year review, PYR. That's how he calls it. And I'm like, let me give it a shot. And it's basically super simple. You take a notebook and you split the notebook, like the paper, in half, positive and negative. All right. and then you turn on your Google Calendar, and hopefully, guys, hopefully you kind of track what you do week by week. I'm not talking about every 15-minute increment you need to track, but hopefully when you go and have a meeting with someone, it's on your Google Calendar. Hopefully when you book a flight, you put it in your calendar. It's usually automatic by now. Like if you probably go to your Google Calendar, if you never used it before, it will already have some stuff filled out there. So you basically open up your calendar. I use Google Calendar, and you go week by week. So you go 7 days, and in the year there's 52 weeks, and you kind of look at each week, and you write down like the positive things in that week, which like the high highs, and the negatives, like the low lows, what you really didn't like, what you hated about it. And now you can kind of make a conclusion. Then you were just doing it just to do it, right? Because it was on your calendar. But now you can kind of conclude it and look at from the bird's eye view. So that's what I did. And I took my notebook and kind of wrote down past year review, like positives, negatives. And I wrote down actually more negatives than positives, because human brain is much more likely to come up with the negatives. Albert Einstein always used to say, always invert. Because when you invert something, it's much easier to come up with the negative thing. And that's what I did. I kind of inverted and I wrote a bunch of negatives, but I was like, okay, but from that negative, like what positive did I learn that week? So you go week by week, and I did that. And not every week I had something to write, but I kind of went there and I skipped a few weeks because there was nothing there. I was just like a robot working, and I realized many things, like where I see the positives, I see a lot of commonalities, and in the negatives, I see many common things, right? So the exercise now, when you have the whole year filled in, which for me, it was only like 2 pages, right? And like 2 pages of very tall writing. What I did is I flipped the page, and then you do an 80-20 rule, okay? What is an 80-20 rule? Hopefully you know it by now. 80-20 principle. You kind of focus on the 20% of most important positive things, and you can kind of conclude it too. Like if you see 3 or 4 really similar things in the positive side, which can kind of conclude in one lesson, you can write it as one. So then I did like top 20%, positive, negative again, and I kind of concluded it, like what I liked in the previous year and what negatives, what should I avoid in the next year. You know why this works? Because you were already doing it. You just need to do more of what's working and less of what's not working. And this could be anything. This could be, relationships, money, fitness, anything. So, what I wrote in the positives is coach people once a week. I really loved it, okay? Like, I really loved coaching people once a week. The problem was I was doing 2 calls a week, okay? So when I was doing 2 calls a week, I really didn't enjoy it much the second time. But I realized when I skipped 1 call because of a flight I had or whatever, and then I would go back to coaching people, because for the past year, I almost did a call every Tuesday and Thursday. So when I would do, let's say, only Tuesday, and then the next call is on Tuesday again, I really, really enjoyed it, because I like talking, as you can probably tell. And when I coach someone, I also learn and come up with the ideas, because I always when I coach, I kind of put myself in the situation they're in, and then I give advice from like my perspective, right? So I learn a lot by doing it. But when I do it two times a week, I mean, it kind of feels like a job. So I'm like, you know what? Once a week, I really enjoyed it. And we had some insane results in my program, which like is not open for anyone yet. Right now, it's actually closed down. But we had two people hit 1 million followers, like from zero. They started from zero and they hit 1 million followers. And then there's a new guy who I just hopped off a call like 3 hours ago. And in the past month, he grew 400,000 followers, which is insane. I've never seen it before. Like, I'm not kidding. I even haven't had that kind of success, but he used the same principles I used and I taught. So super cool. I realized the positive was networking. Like every other thing was like, oh, I met this guy. I met this guy. Oh, like meeting this person was awesome. So I realized like I should keep networking and meeting new people. Like that was one of my highs of the year, just meeting like-minded people. It has such an impact. And even if it's your friends, okay, keep traveling, okay, and plan it. I realized like a lot of my negatives were unplanned travel, but I really enjoy traveling. So what I wrote down is like keep traveling, but plan it up front. Take notes daily. Pretty self-explanatory. Budget my finances. I blew so much money in 2023. I don't even want to say the number because it's absolutely ridiculous. Like when I counted how much money I spent, I was like, I couldn't believe it. So now I started budgeting, right? Learn from your own mistakes. And I wrote down hire more and hire A players, because hiring in the past 3-4 months has been a game changer for me. So what you kind of want to do with those positives is actually plan them and book them in your calendar for the next year. Okay, so kind of go through like, okay, travel, but plan it. You already have in mind where you want to go. Why don't you just book the flight or put it in your calendar, call that friend you want to meet, plan something, not a dinner maybe go out rock climbing, whatever, but plan all of these good things and plan more of them, because that was like top 20% of your good things that happened in the year. So you want more of them. And the negative, I wrote a few, actually 4. And what I did is very simple. I wrote them down on my whiteboard. Why I wrote them down on my whiteboard with big red letters? Just to see them for the next like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, every single day. So I put them inside my head to not do it again or avoid it this year. Okay, that's how you learn. You didn't really learn if you do the same thing again, right? So here's what I wrote. Maybe there is some inspiration for you. Avoid stupid sales calls. People need to be a good fit. I had a problem at the start of 2023 where I would have like 8 calls a day booked. And I'm like, yeah, baby, grind season, a lot of money coming. Sales calls are good. And then I would come on a sales call. It's either a no-show, so a person doesn't show up to a meeting, or it's like a bad fit, a person who doesn't either know me or wants to work with me or doesn't have money or isn't, interested in whatever I'm offering. I need to avoid stupid sales calls, and I kind of already learned that part of things by the end of the year. But, it was something I was doing at the start of 2023. So I'm like, okay, 2024, definitely avoiding stupid sales calls, because a good sales call should be like, if you're selling something like I'm selling, like coaching, or I was selling, a few months back, you want someone who actually wants to work with you for like good reasons. They have the money to invest and they're dedicated. Like I had 1 or 2 people which were not a good fit at all for the program. And now thinking back, I'd rather not have taken the money from them, because at the end of the day, it was a pain in the ass, you know? You don't want that. I said hiring wrongly. So, agencies included. I hired a lot of people, which I'm like, I just hired them just to hire them without a real reason, right? Which is like always a bad thing. And also in hiring wrongly, I hired people without any systems. Like I would hire an appointment setter and I'd be like, here's the logins of my Instagram account. Go ahead, message a bunch of people. And they're like, oh, but I don't know XYZ. And it never ends well. They don't close deals. They don't close bookings. And if they do, they're not dedicated. I didn't have the system. Okay, so I hired wrongly. And agencies included. I hired a few agencies in particular where like I could have probably saved myself like $40,000 last year by not working with them. And they didn't bring any actual tangible results, like looking back. And I worked with the last agency like 4 months ago, so I can definitely tell that like the agencies I worked with at the start of 2023 and in the middle of 2023 didn't really help me in my business. I just lost like $40,000. So when you hire a person or you hire an agency, I need to avoid hiring non-A players and have very high standards and boundaries when I do hire, because I tend to be the cool guy who's like light on people. I don't want to be the ugly boss, but you know what? You have to have boundaries. And if someone, you're paying someone and they don't do their job, like what do you expect? Come on, like it's not a good fit to work. No stupid partnerships. In particular, I had 2 partnerships without boundaries. Again, I was trying to be a nice guy. Come on. But in particular, I had 2 partnerships which didn't really work out well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'd say 2.5. Okay. Kind of like the half one brought a lot of positive, but a lot of negative too. So no stupid partnerships. Like really, you want to vet your partners. When you get into this entrepreneurship game, it sounds so cool to have a partner and, you're both like young, driven entrepreneurs. You're ready to make money. You already had success with something. And then it's like, yeah, you start a partnership and it's not really a fit. It's nothing personal, right? There's nothing wrong about that person. It doesn't work out. So cut that off immediately. Because I have one partnership and like I'm in the process of cutting it. It's been like 5 months we haven't made money. And I've been waiting on the lines because in the meantime, I could have probably made like, not exaggerating, at least $50,000 in those 5 months, like 10K a month, if I wouldn't have the partnership. But it's just that I thought that with that partnership, I'll make like 500K in those 5 months. But you know what? We haven't made any money. So like a wrong partnership is worse than no partnership, right? Like I'd much rather go ahead, learn all the skills needed on my own, and then start something on my own, slowly climbing the stairs. Then, kind of partner up with someone and then they don't have the time or the budget or another excuse. It never works out. Not planning travels or life. That's a super important one, because like I really lived like a cool lifestyle the past year and I'm glad with it. Honestly, like I can't say anything bad about it. The thing is, I'm in a stage of my life where I'm not really happy with the money I'm making right now. Like my parents are still working. I haven't bought them a house yet. I haven't bought my mom a Range Rover or my dad like a Porsche. I haven't done so many things. I kind of have lived like freedom lifestyle and just taking it all in, right? But just taking it all in for myself, which is good. You need to treat yourself. But the thing is, I didn't plan life much. So what would happen is like I would work, and then I feel tired, then I just book a flight to like whatever. Not even thinking about the money. I'm just like, oh, I'm booking a flight to Florida. You know, Florida was great, but like maybe I could have planned it more. And there were so many instances where it's like, I'm not planning to go anywhere. I'm good wherever I'm staying, Dubai, Spain, whatever. Wherever I'm staying, I'm like good. And then I book a flight out of nowhere. So to avoid that and kind of prepare for that, all I need to do this year is plan the travels, right? So plan the budget for the travels too, because travels can get mad expensive for no reason. Like this freedom lifestyle, which you see, it's all cool. Like my Instagram feed is very cool, right? Like I could have the same kind of lifestyle spending 5 times less money if I would just plan my travels, because what would happen is like I would go without a plan for like a month somewhere. And like the difference between going for a month somewhere and going for a week is so huge, because not only you spend more money, which is obvious, like you spend more money, probably 4 times more, or let's say 3 times more, because if it's a week, you kind of pack it in there and still spend money. But the thing is, then you lose focus for a month instead of a week. And it kind of becomes boring, where you're just waiting to like come back to a place where you have your laptop set up and your setup. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So I bought into the idea of like digital nomad. I don't want to call it myself that, but when digital nomads travel like all over the world, like all the time. So they live from their backpack and they go for like a month there and a month there and 2 months there. And then they come back home for like 2 weeks, visit their family, and then, they're all over the place. It's really cool if you're into making upwards of $10,000 a month. If your goal is higher, you need that focusing. Like you need to focus in. There's nothing wrong with traveling, but there are seasons in, let's say, a particular year where you want to be working really hard and focusing on whatever project you're working on, improving what you're working on, or maybe you're doing a new launch for your business. You're launching a new course or you're launching a new newsletter. You really want to dial in for that month, for a month and a half, for 2 months. And if you work hard enough, you'll feel when you need to kind of get away. You need a getaway. You need to travel to Bali and become spiritual. I'm joking, but you'll kind of feel it when you need it. Your body will tell you. Just listen to your body. So that's the plan. Listen to my body. Work hard, focus, and play harder when you play. Make more money while you're in the focus mode, and spend more money when you're playing, but make sure it's planned. Make sure you know when you're coming back to work. Because the problem was with me, it's like I would go somewhere for like a month and I would not know when I'm coming back to like really focused work to grow my business and, to make more money. Of course, I'm running on autopilot and it's easy, but if you want to grow, you need to put in the effort. And it's like, simple. And I already run a business which is like incredibly simple to run, but still, like if you want to grow that, you need focus. So yeah, forget about goals. Goals in terms of like just pure numbers are BS. Just look at the year previously, what you did right and what you did wrong. What had the most impact on you, positive and negative, and kind of soak it in, right? Like be in that. And then you'll realize, oh my God, I love doing sales calls when people are actually interested in what I'm about to tell them. Like, I love that. It's so easy. You come on, the guy is already with his credit card. Like, where can I pay? Can you tell me how much it costs? Never mind. Just take my credit card. That's what you want. You don't want to explain what an Instagram account is on a sales call. You know what I mean? It's a very simple example. So I think 2024 has a lot to offer, and I'm very excited to see what it brings, because I grew in terms of business, in terms of person, in terms of relationships, in terms of fitness. I grew like always in the past year, and I'm glad with it. But I think this year is the time to shine. And I'd say like 2023, I already started kind of shining. I'd say the past 2-3 months, I kind of nailed it down because I hired the right people. I can work on the business, not in the business. I'm coming up with these crazy, beautiful ideas. I'm growing my business. Like, I'm super glad with everything already, but the cliche of like new year, new me. No, it's not new me. I'm just continuing to be the person I was for the past 2-3 years, and just looking at 2-3 months, sorry, and just looking at what I did well and what did I do not so well. So these are my thoughts, honestly, guys. That's what I think. And like I said, this video is actually for me to look back when I do sell my company, or I do achieve something amazing that has been in my heart for so long. And it will be a pleasure to look back. So, guys, what you want to do now is I want you to take action after this video. This might have been entertaining and stuff, but you know what? Take that notebook, look at your calendar, or just remember all the things that were positive or negative in the past year, and plan more of the positive and do less of the negative. It's super simple, right? That's how growth is defined. Just do what's working more and do less of what's not working or that brings you negativity in your life. And that's it. This podcast / video has been on the go. I haven't taken any notes before. And let me know if you liked it in the comments below, so I can actually do this again.